By Touch, Pilot for a Friend by Robert Cox. Fade in, exterior Calor nuclear power plant, night. A set of 3 reactors surrounding a central control center. A parking lot rings the central building. Further away is a set of buildings looking very much like apartments. Exterior Reactor 3, night. Near the entrance, David, mid-20s, carrying his toolbox, heads for the door. He gets to the door, takes his security card, and swipes it through the reader. Nothing happens. He tries again. Nothing. A flashlight beam falls on him and he squints against it. From the shadows comes Jimmy, 40s, a security guard.
Who's there?
David Mattson. That you, Jimmy? What's wrong with the security system? My card won't work.
Jimmy drops the light from David and comes over.
System's getting an upgrade. It's offline for about another 20 minutes. Kind of late for you to still be working, isn't it?
I want to check on my project. We're putting the sensor web online tomorrow morning. I want to make sure the diagnostics are in place. How do I get in?
Oh, right.
Jimmy goes over to the door and opens it.
If you're there in more than 20 minutes, you'll need to use your card to get out. Security should be back online by then. Cameras will be back up in an hour.
Thanks. I shouldn't be that long.
David disappears through the door and into the reactor, and Jimmy continues on his way. Interior Reactor 3 Control Center. The control center is a cluster of 3 control panels, about 6 foot by 2, set up on pedestals forming an arc. They have computer monitors and keyboards with buttons and gauges. All are lit up except for one. On the pedestals underneath the control panels are electrical panels leading to the mechanics. A couple of stools are in front of each of the control panels. One lower panel has been removed, and a black briefcase is propped up next to it. A figure dressed in black, a black ski mask over his face, wearing black gloves and a black jacket, lays under the control panel, placing a device into the space behind the panel. The device is a clock timer with wires going into a large block of a waxy-looking substance, a bomb. Interior catwalk. Carrying his toolbox, David heads toward the control center. Interior control center. Screwdriver in hand, the figure reattaches the panel over the bomb. The figure finishes up and slips the screwdriver into his pants pocket. The figure moves out from under the panel and his foot accidentally hits one of the stools, knocking it over. The stool clatters on the floor, making a loud noise. Interior catwalk. The sound of the stool clattering echoes through the catwalk area and catches David's attention. He looks toward the control center.
Hello? Anyone there? Hello?
Interior control center. The figure stands up quickly, grabs the briefcase, and begins to move away from the control center area. Interior walkway, leading to the control center. David comes down towards the command center, toolbox in hand. From out of the shadows, the figure carrying the briefcase rushes out, knocks David down, and just keeps running.
Hey!
David gets up but leaves his toolbox where it fell and begins chasing the figure.
Stop!
Interior catwalk. The figure runs along the catwalk with David in pursuit. Interior catwalk above control room. David catches up to the figure, knocking him down onto the catwalk. The figure drops the briefcase. The figure quickly gets up and the two of them struggle. David punches the figure and he lands on the floor of the catwalk. There's the sound of something falling through the grating. The figure gets up and the two men grapple for a few moments. The figure punches David in the jaw that sends him staggering to the railing. He grabs it and steadies himself, stunned. The two men grapple for a few moments. David grabs hold of the ski mask and pulls it off. David looks at the face of the man he's fighting, which is done from the figure's point of view so that the identity is not revealed. David is shocked to see who it is. He stops scuffling and stares in amazement.
You.
The figure picks up the briefcase and swings it at David, hitting him. David goes over the railing and falls down to an open area in front of the cold room. Interior area outside cold room. About 20 by 20 with catwalks above it. To one side is the cold room, a windowless structure like a large deep freeze. On the right side, next to the door, is a card key panel, the light off. David's on the floor unconscious, lying on his back, the ski mask still in his hand. The figure reaches over and takes the ski mask, then searches David's shirt pocket, taking David's key card. The figure comes around and, bending down, grabs the unconscious David and drags him toward the door to the cold room. Fade out. Fade in. Exterior woods, night. Dream sequence, POV. Someone runs through the woods, breathing heavily, crashing through the underbrush, clearly in a panic. The person trips and falls in front of a small stream. The reflection of the water reveals a young woman, early 20s, bruised and disheveled. She gets up, and in front of her is a man, 30s, standing there with a gun pointed at her.
Please, I won't tell anyone. I promise I won't tell anyone.
Sorry, can't take that chance.
Please don't.
He aims the gun and fires. Everything goes black. End dream sequence. Interior, monk's cell, early morning. Small and sparsely furnished, a cot-like bed, a small chest, and a nightstand with a hurricane lamp on it. Anton Michaels, 30s, sleeps in the bed, thrashing in the throes of a nightmare. He wakes and sits bolt upright, panting and in a cold sweat. He sits on the edge of the bed, calming himself down. He's dressed in monk's robes. Exterior, San Francisco, establishing shot, early morning. The city at dawn. Exterior, suburban street, early morning. A nice, quiet, tree-lined street in a rather well-to-do neighborhood. A dark sedan and police car are parked in front of one particular house. Exterior house, early morning. The front door opens, and Lieutenant Davis, 50s, and Officer Martinez, 30s, come out and shut the door behind them. Lieutenant Davis pulls a cigarette out of his shirt pocket and lights up as the two men walk to the cars.
It never gets any easier, does it, Lieutenant Davis?
Telling the parents of a kidnapped child that we have no leads? No, doesn't.
What now?
We wait until we get a ransom demand and hope the child is still alive.
There's gotta be something else we can do, or call.
I take it you have someone in mind, Officer Martinez?
The professor.
The two men reach the sidewalk and stop.
I'm not sure he'll help us.
Wouldn't hurt to call him.
Already tried. He's either not home or refusing my calls.
And I guess we wait.
Oh, I'm not out of options yet.
Exterior monastery, establishing shot, day. A large complex of buildings surrounded by a high wall, whitewashed with a tile roof. It looks like it belongs to a bygone age, a beautiful sunny day. Exterior garden, day. A green space, a fountain at the center, benches placed around the fountain. Gravel paths lead to other parts of the garden and the buildings beyond. Anton sits on one of the benches, eyes closed, still in his monk's robes. He wears gloves. Father John, 50s, also dressed in monk's robes, walks down the path towards him. Anton smiles as he comes up.
Good morning, Father John.
Good morning, Anton. Am I disturbing your meditation?
Not really. I'm having a hard time concentrating this morning.
Father John sits down next to Anton, studies him.
You look tired.
Still having trouble sleeping.
Same nightmare.
I'd hoped 2 weeks away from everything would have helped. It hasn't.
Then you're not going to like what I came to tell you. You have a visitor.
Who?
Lieutenant Davis.
Anton stands, angry.
What is he doing here?
He's here to talk to you. He needs...
I know what he needs. Missing person case, right?
Yes. An 11-year-old girl. Kidnapped 2 days ago.
No. I can't go through that again. It's bad enough that I'm still having nightmares.
He only wants to talk.
Tell him I'm not interested. Tell him I won't do it. You know what I've been through. I saw the murderer staring at me. But it wasn't me, it was her, through her eyes. I saw him, the gun, I felt it. I felt her die. I can't sleep without seeing him standing there. Knowing all that, why would you be on his side?
I'm on the child's side.
Anton is speechless.
Sit down, Anton.
Anton sits down on the bench.
I know what you've been through. We've talked about it at length. But somewhere out there is a little girl, and she's in trouble. She may be hurt.
She might be dead. They might kill her while I'm trying to find her.
You may be the only person who can help her. You have a God-given gift.
He can have it back.
Gifts are not always easy to understand,
You think?
and they're not returnable. You've been given this for a reason, and it's not something to be wasted. Lieutenant Davis is in my office. Just hear him out. Do that for me.
Anton thinks for a moment and then nods reluctantly. Exterior power plant, day. It's morning at the power plant.
I'm not happy about this, Atkins.
Interior, Atkins' office. Very sparse. A desk with 2 upholstered chairs in front and an office chair behind. A couple of tall file cabinets nearby next to a large work table overflowing with blueprints. A large window looks out onto the power plant. Burson, 50s, looks out the window down at the complex below. Atkins, 50s, sits in his chair behind his desk, watching Burson. Watt, late 20s, sits in one of the chairs across from Atkins, nervously rolling a pen between his fingers.
I know Board gave you a lot of leeway in overseeing this project,
Burson comes over to the desk, leans on it across from Atkins.
but I don't agree with the way you're running this power plant.
Burson looks over at Watt.
Watt, put that pen back in your pocket and pay attention.
Yes, sir.
Startled, Watt does as he's told and then sits back and tries to look as non-obtrusive as possible. Burson looks back at Atkins, who sits there calmly.
I don't see how you can allow the press to swarm over this plant like a plague of locusts.
Would you please sit down, Mr. Burson?
Burson sits down in the chair.
I understand your concerns, and you're right. But the board gave me permission to do what I think best, and it was my decision to invite the press to tour the plant today.
Burson starts to say something, but stops.
I want everything about this project open and honest. Or would you rather have the press report rumors and half-truths?
What about security?
I only invited 12 reporters, with 3 technicians showing them around and 3 security guards accompanying them. There won't be any problems.
Watt gets a beep from his phone during the conversation. He pulls out his phone and looks at the message. Interrupts.
Excuse me, Mr. Burson.
What is it, Watt?
I need to return this call.
Fine, go ahead. Get me a coffee while you're out there.
Yes, sir.
Watt gets up and, with a cursory nod to Atkins, goes out the office door and out of scene.
You seem to have everything well thought out.
That's what I get paid for. I've spent my career dealing with the press. I know what I'm doing.
We'll see.
Exterior reactor, morning. Tech 1, Tech 2, and Tech 3, all 20s, wait at the entrance to the reactor building. From around the corner, Andrew, 30s, appears. The others go over to him.
You find him, Andrew?
Jimmy said he went down into 3 last night around 9, but didn't see him leave. Well, we can't wait for him all day. With any luck, he's already down at the work site.
Andrew takes his swipe card and runs it through the reader. The light changes from red to green, and Andrew opens the door and motions the other men to go in. In single file, the men enter. Andrew follows and shuts the door behind him.